Hi, I'm Wayne Hellman, and this is the fourth in a series of SmartFoxServer 2x video tutorials. In this episode, we're going to walk through setting up the Eclipse IDE and create a simple SmartFoxServer extension. So let's just open up Eclipse. I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to call this my EXT. I'm going to click Next. Now we're going to have to reference the SmartFoxServer jar files to get the SmartFoxServer API. So let's click on Libraries and Add External Jars. From here, you're going to locate your SmartFoxServer 2x installation, and in the lib folder, you're going to require the SFS2x jar and the SFS2x core jar. Let's just click Open. Since we have those in there now, I'm going to click Finish, and we've got our project created for us. So let's click New and add a package, and I'm going to add our package name and click Finish there, and from here I'm going to click New and create our main class. So the main class is going to be called my EXT as well, and this is going to extend com.smartfoxserver.v2 extensions.sfs extension. So I'm going to click Finish there. Now, the main class of an extension is going to be the single point of entry for all of our calls to the extension. So this can handle both events that are trapped on the server side or requests that come in from clients. So let's just clean up a little bit here. And you'll notice if we just type this now, we can either add an event handler to trap a SmartFoxServer event, or we can add a request handler. In this example, I'm just going to be adding a request handler, and we're going to be passing in two integers that we're going to add together and send the sum back to the client. So the request handler takes two parameters, the first one being the request ID. Now, the client is going to have to pass in a extension request, and it's going to pass this request ID in so we can identify it. So let's call this math, and we're going to have to pass or declare basically a class that's going to handle this. So let's call this mathhandler.class and save that file. So let's go ahead and create mathhandler class. Now the mathhandler class and most other classes that are going to be in your extensions are going to have to extend the base client request handler. So let's just go ahead here and go New Class and put in math handler, and then we're going to extend extensions dot base client request handler and click Finish. Now that's going to import a couple of other classes for us, namely the user class and the SFS object interface. Now those are both passed in to the default method, which is handle client request. So again, we're handling a request coming from a specific user, and that user is going to be the user passed in here. So let's call that user player, and they're going to pass an SFS object of data. In our case, it's going to be those two integers. So let's just call this params as well. Let's get rid of this. So let's now go into our params SFS object and retrieve our two integers. So let's create a couple local variables. Int n1 equals params dot. Now there's a number of different get methods with the SFS object as well as put methods. So you can basically get most of the data types available to Java. So you can get bytes, ints, shorts, strings, booleans, You can also get an entire class which gets serialized from the client side. In this case, we're going to just get an integer, so we're going to use get int, and we need a name for it. So we're going to expect this first integer to be named n1, and we are going to do the same for n2. I'm just going to copy that and call n2. Now the next thing we're going to have to do is create a return object. So that's going to be another SFS object that we're going to put our sum into and send it back to the client. So let's create a new SFS object called return, just like that. And we're going to have to import the SFS object class. Now our return object, we're going to want to put the sum of n1 and n2. So the SFS object also has similar put methods. So we're going to put integer, and we're going to call this sum, and the value is going to be n1 plus n2. Now, the way we need to send this back to the client is we're going to have to retrieve an instance of our main extension class. So let's create a local variable of type main extension and call this parent extension. And we're going to use a method called getParent extension. You see that's going to throw a bit of an error because we need to cast that to my ext. So once we have a local variable of the extension, we can use that extension's send method. Now the send method is quite powerful. You can send to a number of different people in the room, for instance the entire room list or a select few people in the room. You can customize that recipient list to anything you really want. For this particular example, we're only going to use a single user recipient, and we are going to call the command in which we send it back. We're going to call that math. We are going to return our return object, and our recipient is going to be the player or the user who called this extension in the first place. And that is it. Our entire extension is done. So let's just compile this, and I'm going to go export. This is going to be a jar file we're exporting it as, and we are going to select the code in which we just did our project here. So let's click browse, and we're going to go to our extensions folder, and we're going to create a new folder called my ext, create, and we're going to save our my ext jar in that folder. Click finish, and we are done. So let's quickly pull up the admin tool here and log on. And I'm going to go to the zone configurator and add a new zone called my ext. And with the zone extensions, you're going to notice now that the folder that we just created now appears under the pull down for name, and it automatically pulls in the classes that we created. Now we're going to have to select the my ext class because that is the class that is the single point of entry for all of our extensions contained within our jar. The rest of the stuff we're going to leave as default, and I'm just going to click submit here, which creates our new zone, and I'm just going to create a default room here called the lobby and click submit. Let's minimize that. Let's go over to Flash Builder for a second. Now, this is the client that I created in episode 3, which is a simple chat application. All I've done here is add two text input fields, one called N1, another called N2, and I've added a button with a click handler to add them together. The click handler is simply going to check whether the length of both those fields are greater than 0, and we're going to create a SFS object and put the value of N1 and N2 as an integer into the object. From there, we're going to create a new extension request, and we are going to call the math command and pass the object that we just created and send it to the server. Now, the extension that we just created is going to handle that because it's expecting a math command, and it's going to send us a response back, and we are going to handle that on the client side with onExtensionResponse, which has been added to our main SmartFox client here. We've added event listener, SFS event type extension response, and it's being handled by an onExtensionResponse method. So here we're going to parse out the event and get the SFS object through event.params.params, and we're going to see if the command event.params.cmd is equal to math, which we are expecting. We are simply going to write to our chat log the value of N1 and N2 should equal the sum in which we're sending back from the server. So let's compile this now and see what we get. So let's log on here. And we've got the value of 3 and 4, which gives us 7. So even though this is a simple example, it illustrates the power and versatility that SmartFoxServer 2X provides in terms of custom extension development. It provides a solid API to build complex, feature-rich games and applications, and opens the door for true creativity. That concludes episode 4. Remember to check out smartfoxserver.com for updates and support.